Hi everyone, and welcome back to another highlight video. I just felt that I had to talk about this upcoming side quest because I spent 2 hours on it alone, and it made me realize something. I am terrible at video games, like absolutely horrid. This quest was by no means supposed to take that long. I just sucked so badly and had numerous, and I mean numerous, retries for a lot of the minigames. Anyway, let's just jump right in. I'll get the easy stuff out of the way first, the G-Bike. The G-Bike wasn't exactly hard. I did have to retry once, and when I actually got to finish the race, I immediately S-ranked it. So hell, if I could do it, then literally anyone else can. Funnily enough, the G-Bike thing was at the center of a problem when the first Rebirth patch came out about 3 weeks after the game's launch. The patch had an unintended bug which made it impossible to complete the minigame, and in turn, the entire side quest. This meant that while the patch was in play, it would be impossible to get the Platinum Trophy. I wasn't affected by this since I finished this section before the patch went live. Thankfully, Square also released another patch that fixed the issue, so this section can now be completed normally. The Galactic Savior Challenge was super duper easy, got it in one try, so there's really nothing interesting to talk about here. The Chocobo race came up next, and I was actually expecting this to cause a lot of trouble, but as it turned out, the Shinra employee was awful at racing, so I had no trouble at all winning the race. In fact, it felt like it would have been harder for me to lose on purpose than to win the race. Now you can imagine how I felt breezing through the first 3 minigames of this quest with it taking me less than half an hour to ace. Ha ha ha, I had no idea what was coming. The next section came the Battle Square, and boy oh boy, was this quite the challenge. It was 5 rounds, and you pick 3 party members and go through a gauntlet of some really tough fights. Now, I can make excuses like I was outnumbered, and the areas of effect of their attacks were unreasonably huge for me to avoid getting hit. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. The first fight was with 2 Gargantuars. Now you might be wondering, how in the hell are you outnumbered? There are only 2 of them, and there are 3 of you. Well, to you, good sir, I give my answer. Shut up. 1 Gargantuar was hard enough to fight with a full party. For their size, these things can really move. They have the weirdest attack patterns, and the only time they get pressured is when they're using Needle Rain. This attack's AoE is huge, and it only gives you a small window to get some hits in before it literally showers you with needles. Even if you block it, it hurts like holy hell. The problem now is that there are 2 of them, so when you're trying to focus on one, the other sneaks up behind you. Think about that for a second. A 20-foot sentient cactus sneaking up on you. It's absurd. It's no wonder it took me 3 tries just to get past this fight for the first time. Yes, you heard me right. Nope, I am not talking about the 3 tries. I'm talking about the fact that I said the first time. Man, if you thought beating these 2 giant cactuses would be the worst of it, you'd be so wrong. Holy shit. The second round of this gauntlet is a horde of Tonberries. Now these outnumbered me. 1 was already a hassle to deal with because there was always the danger that you'd get 1 hit KO'd if you're not careful. Bro. There were 10 of them. This was a genuine nightmare. Imagine relentless chef's knives targeting your close-range characters to kill them instantly, and then 10 scourges chasing you around the whole arena at the same time to stunlock you. This was a bad time. The party I was running was Cloud, Tifa, and Yuffie because the 3 of them together are amazing, but they got obliterated here. My Yuffie did manage to survive for so long in the first fight just because I gave her the Karmic Cowl, which made her immune to instant death abilities like Doom and Gloom and Chef's Knife. I really thought I was invincible until I realized she had 1 fatal weakness: getting stunlocked from Scourge without an ATB charge. If I did have an ATB charge, Blindside could get me out of a bad spot, but without a charge, I'm basically a sitting duck to all of their attacks. I went back to the drawing board. I knew I had a trick up my sleeve from the first game, and that was Aerith's Lustrous Shield. I knew for a fact that Lustrous Shield could block Scourge, so I decided to bring Aerith in. I took Tifa out simply because Yuffie had the Karmic Cowl equipped, and I thought it would be fine. The problem was I couldn't get past the first round against the Gargantuars with this lineup. Aerith was useless in that fight because she was insanely slow, and although Yuffie is objectively a great fighter, the key to winning the first fight is to take out one of the Gargantuars as quickly as possible. Yuffie doesn't have a punish when we get them staggered, unlike Tifa, who could rapidly increase the damage multiplier of the staggered enemies. So I swapped Yuffie out for Tifa, gave her the Karmic Cowl, and bada bing, we have my endgame party from the remake. This party was by no means perfect, nor did it give me a significant edge. It just gave me a possible counter for round 2. I still had to win the fights. Anyway, I made it back to the second round by the skin of my teeth, and I could finally test out my new strategy, Lustrous Shield. The moment I got it out, it worked flawlessly. Scourge couldn't even graze her. she was invincible. You can see where I'm going with this. Yep, there's always a catch, and this time, it's that Tonberries can teleport in this game. Aerith went down, and since she was the only one with a revival materia, I couldn't get her back up. I tried to stick it out for as long as I could, but eventually Cloud and Tifa went down too. I knew I was on the right track, I just needed to finally lock in and get serious. The beauty of retrying the same fights over and over is that with every game over, whether you like it or not, you will improve. The Gargantuars at this point were absolute cheese. I beat them pretty handily and I could finally get back to the Tonberries. To be honest, I didn't really have a set strategy going in. I just knew that I needed Tifa to draw as much of their attention as possible, and then when they start using Scourge, I needed a Lustrous Shield to hide behind. It worked for a little bit, but shit hit the fan when Aerith got stunlocked by a Scourge and then a Tonberry teleported to her and insta-killed her. Welp, time for plan B. Survive! I knew that if I dwindled their numbers, the fight would get easier. I prioritized making sure Tifa wouldn't die. Thankfully, I had the bright idea of using regen on Tifa to keep her HP up as high as possible. Eventually, I managed to get their numbers down to 5, but at this point, I only had Tifa left alive. Now, enter backup strategy number 3. Run! With Lustrous Shield gone and with Cloud knocked out, getting hit by a single Scourge would mean a failed run. So I did the best thing I could do. Run around in circles and chip away with She-Trap whenever I got the chance. It was working until I screwed up. Or did I? You see, I got a little greedy and decided that I wanted to get in a cheap shot so I could use Chi-Trap one more time. Unfortunately, I got tagged by a Scourge that came out of nowhere, by the way, and I thought I was a goner. Funnily enough, getting hit from the Scourge might have been the winning play, because it did just enough damage for Tifa to reach her limit break, and by some stroke of luck, 3 Tonberries lined up to get hit with 1 somersault, and I got their numbers dwindled down to a 2-on-1, which was infinitely easier than when we started out. With that, I finally cleared round 2, but I had 3 more rounds with absolutely no experience whatsoever. Thankfully, round 3 turned out to be a breather round since I was up against just 1 monster. Thankfully, this thing was super easy to pressure because all I had to do was exploit its elemental weakness, which was ice, definitely the easiest fight in the gauntlet. The 4th fight is where the arena picked up where we left off from round 2. Our opponents were a giant frog and 2 jokers. This had to be one of the most chaotic, no strategy, oh, I have a limit break battle I have ever been in. I wanted to focus on the giant frog first because it had the most annoying moves, and I knew I'd die if I got turned into a frog since items were not allowed in the challenge. The jokers, on the other hand, had other plans and would constantly annoy me and I'd be forced to switch targets. This was as chaotic as it could have gotten, and whenever I got a limit break with Tifa or Cloud, I just use it immediately. Thankfully, I managed to take out the frog without losing anyone, and then the 2 jokers were a lot easier to deal with since I only needed to dodge a specific attack of theirs to pressure them. Both of them went down pretty easily after that. Now, entering the final fight, I had all the momentum. My opponent was an Iron Giant. There was only one of him, but boy did he hit hard. Luckily for this fight, I didn't have to do anything too special. All I had to do was survive until I managed to stagger him, which is basically my strategy for most fights. As soon as I got the stagger, I had Tifa increase the stagger multiplier and unleash her limit break. Game, set, and match. I thought it was over. I really did, but this guy goes and says this.
However, it is still too early to name you the ultimate. And why? Because I hold that title, and there can only be one. All will be settled in a final match, you and me, in an epic 3D battle.
I had one final challenge, and that was a one-on-one 3D showdown with the Shinra manager. Who would win? A Shinra office employee or an ex-soldier who has defeated countless monsters, went toe-to-toe with the great Sephiroth, and the hero of this story? It was the employee. 21 times. It was bad. Anyway, that wraps up this quest. It was fun making this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. In the next episode, we will finally get back on track and make our way to completing the story. I hope y'all are ready, because I'll see you guys next time. Peace.